Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Sapna Rise. I'm Natasha Doshi, and with us today we have someone very special. We have Arpit Vageria with us, and we're in conversation with him to launch his new book, The Girl Next Door. Hi Arpit.
Hello, Natasha. Thank you so much for inviting me over here. And yes, very excited for this session.
Me too. How are you doing?
Doing great. Amazing. I was there at my hometown from last many months, and then recently, which is Indore, my hometown. And then I recently got a chance to go back to Mumbai for a month or so, and then I'm back to Indore for Diwali celebrations. So life is moving now. It's better than before. So excited and everything.
Wow, that's amazing. Must be good to spend some time with your family.
Oh, amazing. I have been waiting for a time like this from last like many years. People who know me closely, they know that I have not even taken a single leave in last 4.5 years.
Wow.
I've not been taken in off on Sundays. So घर के भी कई बार बहुत ज़्यादा important occasions होते थे. So I used to reach Indore by morning and I used to fly back by evening. So for me, it definitely came as a changer, and I loved spending time with my family. And now, for me, it was like a nostalgia. I was doing the things that I used to do when I was very young, and when I was a kid. So my brother, my mama, papa, bhabhi, and getting to play with my nieces. So yes, I am having gala time completely.
That's so sweet. That's nice to hear. To everyone who's listening, let me give them a quick introduction. Arpit, let me introduce you. So,
Please,
Arpit
please.
has been a best selling author of 6 blockbuster books. He is also a scriptwriter by profession. He writes for various TV shows and award functions. And mind you, you'll be surprised because these TV shows are so famous, but we don't know often the man behind the scenes. So, here's Arpit, and he has been writing for some very big award functions, and he's worked with some very famous personalities as well.
Yes. I was fortunate enough to work with many good personalities, and I got to learn a lot from these people. So yes, happy.
Arpit, would you like to tell us something about your book?
For sure. The Girl Next Door, my latest book, which is just released and is already creating a good buzz in entire India. So this book is basically a lockdown love story. The Girl Next Door, as the title suggests, it's about the girl who lives next door to our male protagonist. And one thing that many of us who were in love or who are in love faced during the lockdown was कि यार मिले कैसे जिससे प्यार करते हैं.
Yeah,
So एक तो सबसे पहली बात, no human contact. You have to stay in your house. You cannot go outside. All
absolutely.
the while you are there on phone, chatting and everything. But after a certain point of time, there comes a time when you actually want to meet a person in person. So the girl next door is about that when our male protagonist Ishan falls in love with none other than Chief Minister's daughter. So things get complicated, and things get complicated in a way that you would not even imagine.
Yeah,
जब मैं कहता हूँ कि चीफ मिनिस्टर की डॉटर से प्यार हुआ है तो लोगों को दिमाग में आता होगा कि यार क्योंकि पॉलिटिशियन की डॉटर से प्यार हुआ है तो स्टोरी वुड बी अबाउट दैट. नो, इट्स नॉट अबाउट दैट. It's much, much, much more than that. Ishan, while everyone in India wanted to go back to home, हमने देखा है कई बार कि लोग अपने घर पे जाने के लिए कैसे तरस रहे थे. They wanted to go back to their own hometown.
yeah,
Uh, and at that point of time, Ishan was the one who never wanted to go back to his own home because of something happened 15 years back on that particular night. So the story starts from there, and then people who have read it by now knows it, and people who would read it now will get to know about it and what actually happened during that night and why he doesn't want to go back to his own home to meet his own family. So yes, the story is about that lockdown love, and for me and for everybody else who has been reading this. हमने कई बार अलग अलग लव स्टोरीज के बारे में सुना है. मैंने खुद ने कई लव स्टोरीज लिखी है. This book is different from every love stories that you would ever read.
thank you for that, Arpit. In fact, I've read the book and I found it so warm. It was so loving, and at the same time, it's gripping because the end has that little bit of a suspense element where you're so
Yeah.
shocked. So, this is a book which you don't want to put down because there's so much warmth to it. There's also, I feel like, there's a little bit of learning, just that subtle, philosophy, subtle approach of, sharing some knowledge. So that part also comes in. I think it's a brilliant book.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for appreciating the book. And that has always been my purpose कि जब भी कोई मेरी book को पढ़े, so they should not feel like कि, I mean, we already know the ending. This is what it is going to happen. This is
Right.
what happens in every love story. No, I mean, that is why I always focus more on the ending, and that is how I start the writing. I have an ending in my head, then only I get on to writing, and then I start writing the entire book. For me, to write any particular book,
Okay.
I need to have a definitive and beautiful and very full of suspense wali ending. I
Hmm.
need that to actually start writing the book. And that's what I generally do. When I have an ending, I go to my friends and close group of people who are always the first readers of my book,
Hmm.
even before it gets published.
Okay.
So I tell them about the ending. This is what happens. You know how they reached here, and when they are excited, क्या अर्पित बता कैसे यहाँ तक पहुँचे? Then is when I feel that I should be writing this entire book. So कई बार ऐसे ही मैं अपने खुद के ideas को reject करता हूँ, but when I get a lot of curiosity regarding the same topic, and then is when I actually decide to write it down. So yes, I mean that has always been one of the things that stop on my head कि जो भी book लिखूं, लोगों को ending नहीं पता चलनी चाहिए कि क्या होने
That's a good one.
वाला है.
What inspired you to write this theme? This is the first love story written in the lockdown, and this was so quick to come out. So,
Yes.
what was the theme, and how did you feel inspired to write this?
So, lockdown happened to India in March, right, towards the March end. But I started writing this book during January.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a suspense to this as well. Actually, what happened was, I called my publisher during January because recently I heard about this concept called lockdown.
Hmm.
And lockdown was actually happening in the Western countries and everywhere. And then is when I actually realized that there's a new concept called lockdown in which you cannot move out of your own home. That was very Hollywoodish to me. कि ऐसा लगता है कि किसी मूवी की कहानी चल रही है, that you are not allowed to go out. You have to be there. You are not allowed to touch anything. So that's what we have seen in the movies that we have seen till now. जो भी हम लोगों ने हॉलीवुड की मूवी देखी होगी. So I thought, let me just write something on lockdown, because to meet someone or to make sure that your love is going smooth, you have to meet that person at least once in a while. But then in lockdown, you're not allowed to meet. So what would happen if a couple who falls in love with each other during lockdown for the very first time are not even allowed to meet each other? So then is when I thought of writing it down. I called my publisher Arup and I told him, yeah, Arup, I really want to write something on the lockdown love. And within 10 seconds, he was like, do that. Do it as soon as you can, because I love this concept already, and let's do the book together. And I wrote this book in about what, 5 to 6 months. And of course, when actually lockdown happened in India, I got to understand it even better. So that is how I made changes in my book as well. So lockdown got real for me, and that is why when people are reading it right now, they are saying, yes, I mean, book is very relatable and it happened with us as well. So yeah, that's how I thought of writing a lockdown love story.
That's amazing. Also, there's a little bit of the 90s that comes back when you read the book. The way Ishan and Ruhi talk to each other, the way they connect, and the way they fall in love. I'll give out a little bit. They actually write
Sure.
some letters to each other, but in a very quirky way. So the passing on of notes, calling via landline, giving each other missed calls. All those beautiful nostalgic memories just come back.
So, Natasha, I am a 90s kid myself, and I have always believed in one thing, that the love of 90s was probably the purest form of love that we would ever see in our lives. And I mean, it could be different for the people who were married by the 90s. For them, probably 60s was the best time to be in love, and maybe 70s was the best time. But for me and for our generation of people, I think 90s love was the purest form. Because at that point of time, you never used to block each other. You used to sort out the issues by after meeting each other. पहले वो कहते थे ना कि पहले मतलब समय निकाल कर निकाल मतलब समय होता था और हम लोग मिलते थे एंड समय निकाल कर मिलते थे. अब मिलने के लिए समय निकालना पड़ता है. So that's the difference between 90s and 2020. And I was always very fascinated by the idea of writing love letters to each other because I think it comes with permanence.
Yeah.
I mean, if say that in 2050 when I would have my own kids and probably my kids would have got married by that point of time and I'll show letters that I have written to my girlfriend at that point of time. So I am 200% sure that these people would be very fascinated by the idea of someone writing a love letter to the love of their life. And it becomes immortal. 90s love was immortal to me. When you have when you ask your friends to fill the slam book, मैं अभी भी जब when I was in school मैं अपने फ्रेंड से स्लैम बुक भरवाया करता था. मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता था. And when I still read it,
Yeah.
मुझे मतलब it takes me back to the trip of nostalgia. मुझे लगता है it takes me back into the time. It's like it traveling back in time. इतना अच्छा लगता है उसके अंदर. I am not sure whether I have felt so good about anything else in my life in the last so many years, but that one glimpse of slam book, old letters that I have written to the love of my life, it brings everything back to me. So yeah, I mean that's why I thought of writing book on 90s wala love. It was purest. I mean हम लोग प्यार करना सीख ही रहे थे उस वक्त के ऊपर. टेक्नोलॉजी चेंज हो रही थी. लैंडलाइन से मिस कॉल देना किसी को कितना अमेजिंग होता था.
Yeah.
मतलब मुझे ये भी पता होता था कि अगर 2 रिंग आ रही है मेरे घर पे तो मुझे छत पर जाना है. अगर कोई मुझे if someone is giving me, I mean उस वक्त पे we used to call it blank call. It never
Yeah.
used to be a blank call actually. It used to be a signal of something. So yeah, I mean now when we actually meet anybody, we call them like 5 times to make sure that they are reaching on time. There used to be just one call. You reach by 5:30 and that person used to be there. So 90s was amazing. If I get a chance, I would like to live it once again.
Totally. And I think the thing with 90s was it was very pure since there were very
Yeah.
less distractions and since technology also wasn't that advanced, so people invested their time in each other, in friends, in family. We used to remember birthdays without a Facebook reminder. We didn't have our contact list on the phone. We memorized numbers.
Yeah, so in fact, I remember my friend's number. There used to be a friend of mine, Rohit and Rohan, जो मेरे घर के opposite रहते थे. मुझे आज भी उनका नंबर 480036. तब तक तू आगे लगा ही नहीं था.
Yeah.
उसके बाद मेरे खुद नंबर लैंडलाइन उस वक्त 481039 हुआ करता था. I used to have a friend जिसका नंबर था 782786. I remember everything even now after 20 years. So that's, I mean, I think that's what I really like about 90s. We have created so much of memories that we even remember the digits.
Right.
And now we forget about everything even after 5 days. So I mean, people, I mean, millennials especially, if they really want to fall in true love, they should be living the love of 90s for that. I mean, it's amazing to another level.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Also, Arpit, you're called the Ayushman Khurrana of the writer's world, you know. So many people keep saying that, and I've personally seen comments on your page also where they fondly call you as the Ayushman Khurrana. And the reason being because you're so topical in the choices of your books, you know, you pick certain aspects and topics, and they always hit the mark, they're always so timely. So you've written about the Mumbai floods, you've written about the terror attack, you've written a love story that was situated in India and Pakistan. You've also come up with a book on COVID just when it's at its peak. So how does that come to you?
So, I mean, I'm really glad that someone called me that. However, I'm very happy with my own identity, but at the same time, I'm very glad that someone thought of my books like that. I'm a big fan of Ayushman's work. So, yeah, I mean, because I write on topical things, probably that's the reason why they compared me with Ayushman Khurrana. And but that just happened unintentionally. I always pick up a topic which is topical, which has just happened, because the memory is so fresh in your head, and then I want to write it all down before anybody else does it. So maybe because of that, this people commented like that, and I'm happy that they did it. But yes, I mean, more than anything else, more than any sort of comparison, I'm happy that they are liking my idea of writing on topical thing. And yes,
That's also, talking about your writing style, I feel like even that is something that sets you apart, because this is the first time I've come across a book which has such detailed, writing. You always have some tidbits at the end of each chapter, and we come to know later, but it feels like you are a part of the story. It's like it's your narration. You give out these small anecdotes, you come up with quotes on empathy, sensitivity, some of your experiences that you've had, which is one of a kind, because I've never read something like this before. Also, it connects you so much more to the book, because you feel like there's somebody telling you, your friend is narrating a story and beach mein comments aa rahi hai. So that's something really different. How does that come?
so, Natasha, that has always been my writing style, and I have very intentionally done it,
Okay.
because there is always a third character in my book who
Yeah.
narrates it.
Yeah.
So, like in this story, you know it because you have read it by now. People who are reading it will get to know about it. So, through that particular third person, I somehow express my particular idea of that chapter. So say that if a character of my book is going through depression, so I would like to talk about it first. What exactly depression is? Not in a definition sort of a way, but then how it impacts you, how it plays with your life, how does it make change in your life? So I generally start with that, and so that the person who is reading it get, get into the zone of that character. Okay, okay. So that is how this has impacted this person's life. And then as you have read it, then there is always an ender to my chapter.
Yeah.
Always. Because that's like of that particular chapter, it's like a prologue and then there is an epilogue.
Yeah.
So it's like that. I somehow enjoy very voiceover kind of thing. I mean, when we see movies, whenever we see any sort of movie or web series, there is a voiceover that goes on sometimes to explain certain things. So that comes into my book because I love doing it. Say that if you are watching a movie and then movie starts with a beautiful voiceover to establish what it is all about. That establishment for me in this particular book is that particular first paragraph or last paragraph that you read. So that's my own writing style, and I love doing it. And as you enjoyed it, and there are a lot many readers of mine who actually tell me that, sir, you have given us a different point of view of particular topic, depression, whatever you have wrote about. So we've got a completely new idea of that. We have never watched it like that. We have never sensed it like that. So you have given us a different definition of that. I'm very glad that people think so.
Yeah. That's beautiful, actually, because what happens is, that becomes a takeaway from the book. Usually we read a book, we enjoy a story, especially a coffee
Yeah.
table love story that people write. You read it, you enjoy it, and then you put it down. But with books
Yes.
like yours, with each of these quotes that you write, with each of these paragraphs and narrations that you have, there's actually a subtle learning. It's not too much, but at the same time, it's just there.
It's like not only characters of my book are talking, but then there is a third person,
Yeah.
which is giving you a different point of view. We all have a different point of view regarding many things. For you, this might be a simple pencil. For me, it could be the earbud.
Yeah.
For third person, it could be something else. So I actually think when I'm writing a particular book, it should not only be from a character's point of view, which is there in my book. It shouldn't only be from protagonist's point of view. There should be one protagonist of the story, but at the same time, there should be a third person in the book as well, which is commenting upon whatever is happening in this book. It could be right or wrong. And in fact, I always believe in one thing, that there is nothing called right or wrong. Everything is just honest. So that's a beautiful line by Shakespeare, but I completely believe in that. So that's what happens when I write from third person's point of view, and when I write those one-liners, one paragraphs, and everything.
It's a very interesting way.
Thank you.
Tell me about your favorite character. Who has been your favorite character throughout?
So in this particular book,
Yes.
I really enjoyed the character of Nakul a lot, and of course Ishan, because he's the protagonist of the story. But I really love character of Nakul because he had a very different point of view. And there's one line that Nakul generally says in his book when he gets in a fight with Ishan, and Ishan says that you have been divorced like 3 times till now, and you have had 2 to 3 breakups before. You are the last person from whom I am going to take any sort of uh, uh, any sort of idea about love. You are not the one to talk about love. You have failed in love. So he just said one thing, that it's not about failing in love. Why don't you think it from this point of view, that I have believed in love for 5 times in my life, and I would still like to believe that. Even if I fail for 5 more times, love is such a beautiful emotion that I would like to feel for 5 more times, but then I would still not stop believing in love. So that's the thing Nakul said, and I could really relate with Nakul a lot in this particular book, because I have seen characters like him in my personal life, who thinks from a very different point of view, who, according to this world, is a villain at times, but at the same time, he is just being blunt, he's just being honest, he's just being himself. He's not pretending to be somebody else. I mean, in our lives, generally, we like the people who are good with us on the face and probably bad with us on the back. Nakul is just being himself. Nakul is just Nakul. वो जैसा है, वो जैसा उसके दिल में है, वो वैसा ही मुंह पे बोलता है. और जब लोग शुरू में उसको पढ़ेंगे तो उसको लगेगा कि he doesn't give a shit about his family. But then they get to know about how much does he care about his own family when they read it further. So yeah, I mean, I really love the character of Nakul the most.
Very interesting, actually. And there's so many facets to his life, his nature. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is. I would really like to meet a real Nakul in my life someday, and I'm sure if whenever I meet that sort of a Nakul in my life, that person is going to be my best friend forever. That's for it. मैं अपने कैरेक्टर के अंदर उन लोगों को डालता हूँ जो शायद मुझे रियल लाइफ में कभी कभार नहीं मिले होते, जो मुझे लगता है कि मुझे मिलने चाहिए. So Nakul for me in The Girl Next Door is that one person. For me, Laksh in You Are My Reason to Smile is that one person. And for me, Amir in I Still Think About You is that one person. So जिन लोगों को मैं मिस करता हूँ मैं उन्हें अपनी बुक में डालता हूँ.
Wow, that's nice. But also, tell me, are there people from your life in the book? Are there some real life inspirations?
So The Girl Next Door is a complete work of fiction, but then there is a character of Manoj and Vinay, who are actually my friends with the name of Manoj and Vinay.
Oh,
So मैं उन कैरेक्टर से कई बार इंस्पायर होकर लिखता हूँ. But The Girl Next Door is a complete fiction story because, of course, nobody had a guts to fall in love with Chief Minister's daughter. So, but in many books of mine, in my old books as well, I pick up characters from my real life as well. So, I mean, that is how I can relate to my own writings. When I know that there's a person called Manoj and he behaves in a certain way, and his body language is like this, his nuances is like this, वो इस तरीके से मूव करता है, वो इस तरीके से बात करता है, वो लिस्ट पे लेकर बात करता है. तो ये इन सारे के सारे कैरेक्टर से जब मैं अपनी पर्सनल लाइफ में इंस्पायर होता हूँ या मुझे इंटरेस्टिंग लगते हैं, I just package it in a way that they become a fiction character in my book, but with the real identity. So yes, there are characters in my previous books as well, who were inspired from real life personalities. So in one of my books, You Are My Reason to Smile, there's a character called Pihu. So half of my emails and Instagram messages is about Pihu. They want to meet Pihu. They are like कि हमें पीहू से मिलो. पीहू कौन है, कहाँ रहती है, क्या करती है, we really want to talk to them. And I just answer them one thing: there is a book which is going to come on Pihu someday, and there's going to be You Are My Reason to Smile ka part 2. Then is when you will get to know about Pihu even more better, because that book is going to be from her point of view. So sometimes this happens. In fact, when जब मैं आप ही लोगों के बुक स्टोर्स में, जब मैं बैंगलोर में आया करता था, मैं सपना बुक स्टोर विजिट किया करता था, रेसिडेंसी रोड में आपका जैसे बहुत ही ब्यूटीफुल सा बुक स्टोर है. और भी क्योंकि because I'm not very familiar with Bangalore, but I have been to your a couple of more book stores. बुक स्टोर नहीं, मुझे तो आपको बुक मॉल कहना चाहिए, जैसे कि लिखा भी हुआ है. एक्चुअली आई मीन दैट्स वेरी ट्रू. सपना इज एक्चुअली अ बुक मॉल. तो हाँ, अच्छा मैं बात क्या कह रहा था, मैं बात बोलते बोलते भूल गया.
Pihu and how you
हाँ,
came to the
सॉरी.
store, and I think somebody
हाँ,
must have told you something.
तो मैं भी जब ऐसे आप ही लोगों के बुक स्टोर से जाकर बुक को खरीदता था और पढ़ता था, तो मैं खुद I used to fall in love with many characters at that point. And I used to think that there should be this character
Yeah.
somewhere in this world which exists for real. I really want to meet this character, hug him, slap him, or do whatever I want to do with this character. But I really want to meet this character. So ये मेरे साथ में बहुत होता था, and I feel very glad when my readers thinks likewise for my own characters. उनको लगता है कि उन्हें पीहू से मिलना है, उन्हें लगता है कि उन्हें लक्ष्य जैसा दोस्त उनकी लाइफ में होना चाहिए, उन्हें लगता है कि ईशान जैसा कोई प्यार करने वाला होना चाहिए, उन्हें लगता है कि कोई रूही जैसी होनी चाहिए, so उन्हें लगता है कि कोई उनका भी नकुल जैसा भाई होना चाहिए. So मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लगता है. It's the same feeling कि कभी आप सपना बुक स्टोर के अंदर खड़े होकर आपके फेवरेट ऑथर से बुक को साइन करवाया करते थे, नाउ यू साइन इट फॉर योर रीडर्स, सो इट्स अ सेम फीलिंग.
I can imagine. Do you plan to bring all these characters to life via the big screen? You know, that is one way that people can actually witness these characters come to life. So do you have any of those plans?
So there are plans for that, and of course, I mean there are producers who have showed interest in some books of mine. But movie making or web series making, it's a little long process. Even after signing a contract, it takes about 3 to 4 years of time sometimes. I would not really like to comment on that as of now, but then there are certain things which are in process, and someday, sooner or later, I'm sure that my readers would be able to be my viewers someday. They'll be able to see this book happening for silver screen someday. So, yeah, I hope so. That happens. I mean, maybe
Wishing.
sooner or later it will happen for sure.
Hopefully, I mean, I'll be really excited to see this on screen.
I'm sure whenever this thing happens, I'll be the first one to be dancing on in the premiere. I mean, I'm really that sort of a person who expresses himself really well. तो मैं शायद जिस भी दिन मेरी बुक फिल्म में बनेगी और प्रीमियर में बड़े बड़े लोग आए हुए होंगे, मैं शायद उनके सामने डांस वांस भी कर लूंगा. मैं है ना एक्साइटमेंट के मामले में बड़ा रणवीर सिंह जैसा हूँ, मैं पागल हो जाता हूँ, बड़ा मजा आने लग जाता है मुझे कुछ कुछ चीजों से. So I really hope that it happens someday.
But one thing, you've actually written towards the end of your book that this is going to be your last love story. And you know, I really want to tell our readers that finish the book, reach the end, because there's like there's a big announcement, something to do with your personal life. And you know, I really want them to reach that part to kind of relate to you more and be a part of your celebration. But also, why is this going to be your last love story?
So, Natasha, to be very frank, when I was actually writing this book down, I mean, from luck, it's not only about this book. I have seen a lot of negativity in human life from last 4 to 5 years. This is what I have seen. मतलब मुझे याद है कि जब मेरी परवरिश हो रही थी, when I was actually growing up, my parents never told me to make friends only and only basis of on the basis of religion, caste. They were like कि तू अहमद के साथ में खेलना है खेल, तू जॉर्ज के साथ में खेलना चाहता है खेल, तू राम के साथ में जाके खेल, तू राहुल के साथ में खेल, तू बलविंदर के साथ में जाके खेल, हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, just be a good human. And at that point of time, I mean, one more reason to love the 90s, parents were very broad-minded at that point of time. आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा narrow-minded हो गए. So, and they are, I mean, my parents are still the same कि do whatever you want to do with your life. तुम्हें जिसको दोस्त बनाना है बनाओ. मेरे पेरेंट्स हमेशा मुझे एक ही चीज कहते हैं कि नेवर गिव योर पॉलिटिकल व्यूज इन वोटिंग. आपको जिसको जाकर वोट करना है आप करो, but at the same time if you favor someone that doesn't mean that you need to hate somebody else. But that's my upbringing. And I always loved being that person. I'm very happy that I was born in this particular family. क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पर कभी भी ये सारी चीजें सोची नहीं जाती. बट मैंने पिछले कुछ एक सालों में देखा है कि पीपल जज यू ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रिलीजन. हिंदूज को भी जज किया जाता है, मुस्लिम्स को भी जज किया जाता है, क्रिश्चियंस को भी जज किया जाता है, सरदारों को भी, पंजाबी लोगों को भी जज किया जाता है. एंड ओनली बिकॉज दे बिलोंग टू पर्टिकुलर रिलीजन. एंड इंटरनेट पर मैं कई बार वो बहस देखता हूँ, लिबरल्स की, भक्त की, बाकी बाकी लोगों की. मुझे यही सारी चीजें देखकर ये होता है कि यार, जब आपको खून की जरूरत होती है एंड व्हेन यू नीड इट अर्जेंटली, और जब आप फेसबुक के ऊपर स्टेटस अपडेट करते हो कि वी नीड बी नेगेटिव और ए नेगेटिव, तब आप ये नहीं डालते हो ब्रैकेट के अंदर कि ओनली मुस्लिम्स या ओनली हिंदूज का ही ब्लड चलेगा. यू नेवर डू दैट. अगर आप उसको फॉलो करें तो इस तरीके से भी करो. अगर आप उस तरीके से फॉलो करें तो इतनी डिटेलिंग में जाकर करो कि क्योंकि आप हिंदू हो तो सिर्फ आप संतरा खाओगे, आप पालक नहीं खाओगे क्योंकि वो हरा है, और क्योंकि आप मुस्लिम हो तो आप सिर्फ मेथी खाओगे और आप संतरा नहीं खाओगे क्योंकि वो भगवा है. Do that. No, I mean, if you are going down to that level, good. Go down to that level. आप इतना हरा और भगवा का कई बार डिफरेंशिएशन करने लग जाते हो, फिर सब्जियों में भी उतार कर लेते रहो. आप हिंदू हो तो ग्रीन टी शर्ट मत पहनो, आप मुस्लिम हो तो आप ऑरेंज टी शर्ट मत पहनो. बिकॉज ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग आई वॉज वेरी हर्ट. आई वॉज वेरी हर्ट. मैं हर किसी को एक सेक्युलरिज्म का एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ कि मुझे शहाना से भी प्यार हुआ है, मुझे पूजा से भी प्यार हुआ है, और मुझे क्रिस्टीना से भी प्यार हुआ है, और मुझे पंजाबी लड़कियों से. तो मुझसे तो बड़ा सेक्युलर कोई हो नहीं सकता. तो मैं ये कहता हूँ कि आई मीन, वर्ल्ड इन विच वी यूज्ड टू लिव बैक इन 90s was the world of 1942, a love story. And now we have come back to the time where we appreciate hate story. So the world has actually changed from love story to hate story now. And I was very hurt, and that is why I wrote it. Till that time, I do not feel that love is back in this world, and people have somehow stopped hating each other. I am not going to write any other love story after that. And I hope that someday my perception changes. It could happen after weeks, months, years, or it might never change. But then there's one thing for sure, that if at all in my personal life, I do not feel that love has increased in my surroundings and everything, doesn't make any sense to write any other love story. So it might be my love story, but last love story. But you never know, things change. As this is.
Absolutely. I mean, we never expected COVID, and it's almost been a year now that we're into this. So I'm guessing, even this might change, and one day we might live in a world that is full of love and empathy.
I think bookstore is in that way is very beautiful. क्योंकि बुक स्टोर कभी भी ये जज नहीं करता कि हमारे यहाँ से आके जो किताब खरीदने वाला है वो इंसान कौन है. जैसे कि हरिवंश राय बच्चन ने कहा था ना कि बैर कराती मंदिर मस्जिद पास बुलाती मधुशाला. सेम लॉजिक इज फॉर बुक स्टोर्स इज वेल. सो एंड ओनली एजुकेटेड पीपल वॉक्स इन, या फिर जिन्हें एजुकेटेड बनना है वो ही बुक स्टोर में आते हैं. सो दैट्स वन प्लेस वेयर पीपल यूनाइट. कभी मुझे सिडनी शेल्डन की कोई बुक पसंद आती है तो मैं नहीं देखूंगा कि कौन से रिलीजन का है या फिर कौन सी कंट्री का रहने वाला है. मैं सिर्फ अपने फेवरेट कैरेक्टर्स के बारे में डिस्कशन करूंगा. हैरी पॉटर पसंद आती है तो मैं ये नहीं देखूंगा कि कौन सा रिलीजन का है. मैं अपने कैरेक्टर्स डिस्कस करना स्टार्ट करूंगा. आई थिंक दैट शुड बी द ब्यूटी ऑफ लाइफ. दैट्स हाउ एवरीबॉडी शुड बी लिविंग.
Very true, in fact. But speaking of that, do you prefer a bookstore as an ambience, or would you prefer online shopping? And are you more of a, physical copy person, or do you prefer Kindle now that technology has come in?
मैं सिर्फ बुक को पढ़ता नहीं हूँ, मैं बुक से प्यार करता हूँ. मेरा रोमांस है बुक के साथ. मैं जब तक किसी भी बुक स्टोर में जाकर इस बुक को यूं पकड़ के 5 मिनट तक स्मेल ना करूं ना, तो I do not feel it. So that is why I will always be the person who would walk into bookstore and would prefer to buy books from there. बट दैट डजंट मीन कि मैं ऑनलाइन बुक्स या फिर कोई सी चीजें नहीं खरीदता, ऐसा नहीं है. ऑफ कोर्स I also buy stuff online, but my major sale would always be 90% of the bookstores, 90% of the stuff from bookstore and 10% online. Only those 10% of the uh, books, I mean, only those 10% books I would buy online, which is probably not available in bookstore for some reason or other. You always go to bookstore first. मैं बुक के बारे में पता करूंगा, उस बुक के लिए मैं 5 दिन वेट भी करूंगा, but it's going to come. And only and only after that I mean the last option for me would always be online. I mean, मुझे बड़ा मजा आता है बुक स्टोर के अंदर वहां पर बैठना, उधर बैठकर थोड़े से बुक्स के पेजेस पढ़ना, and then you buy the book. And I mean, I think it's more personal. I mean, I love how Mumbai ka bookstore wale, they know me personally. There are many bookstore staff who know me personally. कि अच्छा अर्पित है. Not because I'm an author, but because I'm an avid reader, and I go there and I buy the books, and just people give me beautiful, beautiful recommendations.
Yeah.
So bookstore का feel एक अलग होता है. So yeah, I mean, I'll always be the bookstore person.
Me too. I think I relate to you on that one.
Yeah, and मतलब तो पहले, I mean, when I was very young, मेरी तो एक आध दो छोटी मोटी सी लव स्टोरीज भी बुक स्टोर से स्टार्ट हुई हैं. When we were actually reading the book together, we started discussing our favorite book, and then we became good friends, and then we got into relation. So this happened with me as well. So yeah, but I have lots and lots of memories with bookstores.
That's so sweet.
Yes, it's like a book reading date.
Yeah.
Coffee date भी होती तो reading date भी होती है.
Definitely, that should be a new thing actually.
Yes, yes, yes. By the way, I mean, Sapna also delivers book online, right?
Yes.
In Paddington. Which is
So he,
sapnaonline.com.
yeah.
So good. So people who love going to bookstores, please go to Sapna. People who do not even live in Bangalore, बैंगलोर अगर घूमने के लिए जा रहे हो ना, तो प्लीज सपना बुक स्टोर्स को विजिट करना. आई एम नॉट सेइंग इट ओनली एंड ओनली बिकॉज हम लोग साथ में सपना के साथ में ये डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं, बट बिकॉज यू शुड go there and experience the bookstore. I'm 100% telling all of our viewers कि उनको मजा आ जाएगा, and they'll write back to me saying that, sir, thank you for the recommendation. And at the same time, if you are not able to go to Bangalore, you can always order book from Sapna online. So yeah, I mean, I love bookstores.
That's very kind of you to say. Thank you so much. But yeah. Also, Arpit, I mean, one thing I wanted to ask you right from the beginning, you are a scriptwriter by profession, and you specialize in comedy, and you've written so many love stories at the same time, so you're almost juggling two forms of writing, that's comedy and romance, at the same time, two completely different ways, script writing and writing a book. So how does that happen, and how's the whole process of writing?
So process of writing a novel and then writing a TV show, it's very different. मैं रोमांस बुक के लिए लिखता हूँ, मुझे लिखना बहुत पसंद है. आई वांट टू express whatever I want to express, and that happens only through book.
Okay.
जब मुझे मेरे अंदर का राइटर याद आता है तो मैं बुक लिख लेता हूँ. जब मुझे मेरा बैंक बैलेंस याद आता है तो मैं टीवी लिख लेता हूँ. So ये मेरे साथ में होता है, because TV gives you a decent amount of money. Books also give you a decent amount of money. At the same time, TV pays you a handsome amount of money. So जिस कारण से मैंने बॉम्बे में घर भी खरीद लिया कुछ वक्त पहले. So that's the major difference. But the kind of satisfaction that I get in writing book, वो शायद किसी और फॉर्म से उतना नहीं आएगा. But at the same time, writing for television and writing for comedy is also a challenge, and I enjoy doing it. कॉमेडी मुझे इसलिए भी लिखना पसंद है क्योंकि शायद बचपन से जो मेरी सबसे पहली हॉबी थी वो यही थी कि लोगों को हंसाया जाए, तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता था. तो इसीलिए मैंने एक वक्त के बाद में, when I was writing romance, so I thought, let me also explore a different genre where I can write. So I mean, that is how I started writing comedy shows as well. जो पंच कॉमेडीज आप लोग सुनते हो, जो मैड कॉमेडी आप लोग सुनते हो, देखते हो, वो लिखना मुझे बहुत पसंद आता है. फिल्टर जो है टीवी के अंदर ज्यादा है, because they have a larger audience. They have 130 crore people watching their TV shows every day. That is why it's always challenging to write humor in a restricted way and then still make people laugh.
Right.
That is not the case with book. You are the owner of your own book. Whatever you want to write, write. You can express it as it is, and that's the best part about my publisher as well. My publisher never restricts me to write anything which is probably controversial. He's like, Arpit, if you feel it, you write it. And that's how I always write book on topical things as well. And because when things are topical, it tends to get controversial at times. So yeah, that's the major difference between TV writing and novel writing, and it can go hand in hand. कि कुछ महीने novel, कुछ महीने TV, it can go hand in hand. It's always good to juggle between two things.
Okay.
आप उसी हिसाब से अपने आप को challenge भी कर रहे होते हो, नए नए thoughts भी बना रहे होते हो. For both of the writings, there's one thing which is common, and that is one needs to be very observational when they are writing it, whether for TV or for novel. Otherwise, your viewers or your readers won't be able to relate to whatever content that you are delivering.
Wow. Any other tips and suggestions for budding writers? Because I'm sure so many who are listening to us right now, there are, they have this budding author within them, but obviously due to restrictions or due to inhibitions, they're not able to channel it out. So, any tips?
So one thing is, do not write if you want to write it for fame and money. Do not do it. You will thank me later. If only you have this knack of telling stories, you want to tell stories. If you are the one जो कि 5 दोस्त लोग बैठे हुए और उसके बीच में बोलता है सुनना यार तेरे को एक चीज सुनाता हूँ तेरे को मजा आएगा. If you are that person, then only write a story. But if you are that person जो कि कहता है कि अरे यार रहने देना यार बाद में कभी सुना देना, then you can never become a writer. You should have this love of hearing and telling stories.
Yeah.
Listening to stories and then telling their stories. If you are that person, if you want to convert it into a novel, then only write a novel. Another thing is you need to read a lot. If you think that you have read like 20, 25 books till now and then you can become a great author, it doesn't happen that way. मैं आज भी सीख रहा हूँ और मैं आज से 20 साल के बाद में भी सीख रहा हूँ. शायद मैं अगर 1 साल के अंदर 30 बुक्स पढ़ता तो शायद कोई और है जो मुझसे बेटर है, who must be reading 75 books in a year. The more you read, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more you are informed. And the more you are informed, the more you are ready to write a book.
Wow.
And when you are ready to write a book, it comes from inside. It comes from here. You know it that I am ready to write a book, and then I can deliver an amazing content, and people would write back to me saying that, "Sir, क्या आपने लिखा है? मजा आ गया." When you have that hunger and thirst in you, then only write. And stay away from the people who say that अबे reading नहीं करनी होती, reading नहीं करना क्या होता है, दूर कर दो life से. You don't need those people. If you want to become a writer, stay away from this people. They are the one who gives birth to an uneducated society, and there will always be a bigger difference between a set of people who read and a set of people who doesn't read. Always be the person who read. So when you, I mean, come on, do not talk about writing a novel. When you have so much content in you, जब आपको ज़्यादा चीजें पता होती है, there's an adrenaline rush which comes from here. आपको बताना होता है कि यार ये चीज पूछने में बताऊंगा जो मजा आएगा. आपको अंदर से लगता है कि ये बात मैं किसके साथ शेयर करूं, कब शेयर करूं. If you're that person, then you should be writing. You should be writing the book. There are many authors that I have heard जो कहते हैं कि अरे हमने 5 बुक्स लिख दी है, लेकिन हमने कभी हम लोग ज्यादा बुक पढ़ते नहीं है. मुझे पसंद ही नहीं है ऐसे लोग. आई एम एक्चुअली सेइंग दिस कि जो कहते हैं कि हमने बिना पढ़े लिख दिया है, जिसने आज तक कभी मूवीज ही नहीं देखी और वो किसी दिन एक दिन जाकर डायरेक्टर बन जाता है तो कैसा. आप वो चीज भूल जाइए. जिसने आज तक एक इलेक्शन नहीं लड़ा और अगर वो एक दिन जाकर इंडिया का प्रधानमंत्री बन जाता है तो वो कैसा. सेम वेस्ट जिसने आज तक बुक्स ही नहीं पढ़ी और वो एक दिन राइटर बन जाता है तो वो कैसा लिखता हो. इसीलिए ऑलवेज रीड एंड साल भर के अंदर 5 किताबें भी पढ़ोगे ना कोई बुराई नहीं, लेकिन बुक्स पढ़ो. That's very important. It's only about making yourself reach to the first book. Once you have completed your first book, मैं मना भी करूंगा ना तो आप लोग पढ़ोगे. And it's not only about my books. सिर्फ मेरी बुक्स मत पढ़ो, हर किसी की बुक. जो जॉनर आपको पसंद है वो पढ़ो, जो नहीं पसंद है उससे और ज्यादा पढ़ो, क्योंकि शायद आप उसी से सीखोगे. लाइफ में 2 किस्म की चीजें होती है. एक वो चीज जो आपको अच्छी लगती है और आप करते हो, उससे आप सीखते हो. लेकिन दूसरी चीज होती है जो आपको अच्छी नहीं लगती, आप फिर भी करते हो, आप उससे ज्यादा सीखते हो. So always read books that challenges you. नई नई चीजें सीखोगे ज्यादा मजा. So yes, these are my couple of suggestions.
golden words, I say, Arpit, because I feel so inspired by listening to you. I'm sure our viewers must be feeling so ecstatic and must be feeling so happy.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you. I mean, very happy that you feel it that way.
What plans, Arpit? Any future plans, and what are you planning? What's your next book about?
So, as I just said, I've not thought about the next book till now. Of
Hmm.
course, I mean, I have many stories in my head right now.
Okay.
And I mean, I really need to be very sure that whether I would like to write another story.
Okay.
Not saying that it won't happen, it might happen. It's just about when it comes from inside and it should be like, you know, Arpit, ek aur book likho. And when I feel the love around surrounding in my surroundings and all, I'll definitely write it. And if at all I write it, it is definitely going to be a sequel of one of my previous books, which is You Are My Reason to Smile. It's also the highest selling book of mine till date. So people would finally get to know about Pihu. Pihu कहाँ रहती है, क्या करती है, वो उनके सारे के सारे सवाल जवाब. People will get to know about it if I write. So that's the plan as of now. And along with that, I'm also doing many exciting TV projects as of and a couple of web projects as well. So that's the plan. And in 2021, my biggest plan is to read more and more books. I have this challenge for myself that I want to read 365 books in 365 days.
Wow.
Book could range from 10 pages to 500 pages, but I really want to finish 365 books. So that's the challenge that I've set up for myself, and I really wish कि मैं वो चीज़ कर पाऊँ.
That's very inspiring and all the best. Let me know if you actually achieve it because I want
100%.
to take up some
100%.
challenge like that now.
What? Sorry, I didn't get you. What
Even
did you
I
say?
feel so inspired that I feel like taking up a challenge like that.
I think people should take it. I think Sapna should promote it. Yeah, कि hashtag 365 for days, 365 reads with Sapna, something like that. Because I mean 2020 ने आपको अंदर से खाली कर दिया. 2021 में कुछ तो अंदर भरना पड़ेगा. So let 2021 be the new start of this world. लोग कहते हैं ना कि यार 19-20 हो गया. क्यों ना 20-21 हो, क्यों ना 2021 हो. And that can happen when you read books. So I think Sapna should be actually promoting such sort of a contest. और लोगों को मुझे लगता है कि बढ़ चढ़कर इसके अंदर पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे from across the country.
Definitely. Thank you so
I'll
much.
definitely be promoting it. अगर आप लोग ऐसा कुछ कर रहे हैं ना तो मैं बढ़ चढ़कर उस चीज को प्रमोट करूंगा.
Done. I'm going to put this plan into action as soon as possible.
Please do that. Please do that.
But thank you, Arpit. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for such an insightful talk. I'm sure so many people listening are inspired and they definitely want to just rush to our stores and pick up this book because it sounds so wonderful and warm.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I'm sure that the people living in Bangalore will visit your bookstores and buy The Girl Next Door and all other books of mine from there. And at the same time, people who are not there in Bangalore, please go to Sapna online and book it from there. Books पढ़ो, मुझे बताओ कैसी लगी, दूसरों को बताओ कैसी लगी, और maybe, I mean, there is a promise that I've asked all of my readers to do at the end of the book. Also keep that promise, and you will know the promise when you read it. So book is very reasonable. It is priced at 199 rupees only. So you can take it from bookstore and Sapna online.
Thank you, Arpit. And from all of us at Sapna Book House, we wish you all the best for this project and for many more that comes your way.
Thank you so much to you, Natasha, and everybody at Sapna who actually made it possible. I really enjoyed talking with you. And I hope the next year during better times, I come over there and we do a book reading over there in bookstore sometimes. So let's hope for that.
That will be a very beautiful experience. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Natasha.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.